Yo, what is going on, Knicks Nation? It is Richie from Knicks Media, and it is game day. Knicks basketball
Yes,
is
sir.
officially back. We got Tyler, who is representing these New York Knicks from Wardy NYM. Tyler, it's a pleasure to have you on, bro. How you doing today?
I'm doing great, my man. Reach out like you're trying to do a little Knicks preview. I said, of course. Is that a rhetorical question? Knicks basketball is back, baby. I want to see the hype in the live chat for everyone watching live on YouTube. Please make sure to subscribe to Knicks Media for consistent Knicks coverage all season long. If you guys aren't already on the hype train, you better be on it now. I'm pumped, man. We got a lot to get into. We have been waiting for this day. I feel like, truthfully, at least for me, because I wasn't, watching every single little small and big transaction happening throughout the offseason. It feels like yesterday that the Knicks season still ended for me, So I'm really excited to get into this because they have a lot of momentum heading into this season. They have a little chip on their shoulder. I'm excited, man. I really am.
Absolutely. And my favorite part about this Knicks team, Tyler, which we will get deeper into as the show goes on, is their continuity. This is basically the same exact team as last year, minus Obi Toppin. You add in Dante DiVincenzo, and I think continuity is in their favor, which I'm really excited about because the chemistry, it's going to be a fun team to watch. And I got high expectations for these New York Knicks this season, and every single Knicks fan should feel the same way. So, guys, if you're just tuning into the show, do us a gigantic favor. Simply hit that thumbs up button because I don't need to remind you guys, Knicks basketball is back. The offseason was so long, and I cannot believe we're finally getting a Knicks basketball game tonight against the Boston Celtics, who are hyped up to be like one of the best teams in the NBA. You add in Kristaps Porzingis, they bring in Holiday, you got Jason Tatum. I get all that, but woo! Knicks, Celtics, it feels like every season they open it up at Madison Square Garden against Boston. I was at that triple overtime game 2 years ago, and I guarantee you this, Tyler. If the Knicks win, they're going to parade the streets like it's a playoff win because these
we're
Knicks
ready
fans
for
are
Sky
hungry.
Talk NYC right away. I can't wait for the post game and how everyone's going to act. So hopefully it's a big game. Hopefully it's in the Knicks' favor. But as you mentioned, 2 years ago, you were there in the overtime. And of course, that was one of the multiple Fournier games that we've seen against his former club. I don't think we're going to see that tonight. However, really, really excited to get into this matchup, no less. And ready for the season to begin. Knicks basketball is back, baby. Let's go.
Me too, man. And expect a lot more. Wardy NYM covering these New York Knicks. You guys know I'm covering the New York Mets, the #1 Mets YouTuber on the internet. And he's going to be really more active here on Knicks Media and giving us his coverage of the New York Knicks. So I'm excited to have you on to this show because today is the first day of Knicks basketball. So, folks, again, hit that thumbs up button and let us know in the chat how excited you are. We got Squirmy Weasel. Let's go, Knicks. I love it. Knicks Galaxy's in the chat. Let's go, Knicks. You know it. And Jet always representing LGK. Knicks all day, says Eclipse. Is this the first regular season game? Yes, it is. Tonight is the opener. Last night was the NBA opener. We got to see the Lakers take on the Nuggets as well as the Warriors and the Suns last night. But tonight is where NBA action starts for these New York Knicks. Daniel's in the chat. Yo, what's good, my man? Let's get into the first topic, Tyler. So, Celtics Knicks, honestly, and I've just broke down the Boston Celtics for you, but they are stacked, okay? These Boston Celtics are a team that's going to be a threat in this Eastern Conference. It's pretty much the Celtics and the Bucks, if you ask me, of who looks like the big juggernaut to get through in the Eastern Conference. But I do like the way the Knicks match up against them tonight. So what's your overall expectations in tonight's game, in the opener? And I think that we can all agree, I'm not going to be there, unfortunately, but the Madison Square Garden crowd is going to have a lot to say in terms of this Knicks team go out there performing at a high level.
Oh, the Garden's always popping, for any team that's representing. I don't know. I know there's plenty of you watching this that maybe are Rangers fans as well, including myself. We know how much it is popping there for hockey games, for basketball. I can tell you, as someone who went to a Knicks game for the first time at Madison Square Garden with you, Richie, earlier this year, and that overtime loss to the Clippers, that game wasn't, mind you, Knicks weren't looking good all the way until the very end of the fourth quarter. And when that place started to get going, it was ridiculous. The Garden has a completely different feel every single time the Knicks are playing basketball there. It's going to be absolutely chills tonight. Jalen Brunson on the court in itself is all you need to know that's going to be a great night. Now you add on everyone else that we currently have on this Knicks roster. And this matchup against the Celtics team, we've seen over the past couple of years, the Knicks have certainly had their success, especially last season. Knicks had plenty of their number, the Celtics. They've looked like that big bad team, just like hockey relation. the Boston Bruins were the best team in the regular season last year too. Boston sports was looking great in a lot of ways this past season, but they all fell short, especially early on. And the Knicks are a team that we've seen them have the success. We've seen them be able to read this Celtics club and see them more for who they are versus the juggernaut that we've seen against other clubs, and really normalize them and bring them back down to earth quite a bit. And I know if the Celtics are going into this game plan and with any adjustments from last year, is that they're going to be ready tonight. That is for certain, right? Because they have been embarrassed by the Knicks multiple times over the past year and a half now. So I'm expecting this to be a really heated matchup between these two teams. Yes, the Celtics retooled a little bit. They don't have Brogdon anymore. Pardon me. They retooled a little bit. They brought in Porzingis. And in my opinion, one of the most underrated players in the league defensively still, Derek White, what he has been able to do for that Celtics team cannot be understated enough. So seriously, I'm going to be keeping a close eye on him. And of course, Jason Tatum and all the surrounding cast that they have. But you look at this Knicks team now, Richie, my question to you is, what is your expectation? How are you expecting them to roll out tonight against the Celtics team? What do you like most? And maybe what do you not like about this current matchup?
Yeah, I really think, and like I said at the top of the show, the continuity of this Knicks team is their strength. And basically what that means is, we're going into year, 4 or 5 with Tom Thibodeau. Julius Randle and RJ Barrett has been together since Julius Randle, RJ Barrett were literally brought here through the draft and free agency. This is year 2 with Jalen Brunson. You acquire Josh Hart at the trade deadline. This is his first full season with the New York Knicks. I love the chemistry, Tyler. I really believe that the chemistry is going to be their strength this year, where they got a year underneath their belt. They went deep in the playoffs. They lost to the Miami Heat in that second round. And I think that L that they took in the playoffs is really going to propel them this season to kind of understand and dig deep within themselves and understanding what needs to change. And I think the bench unit is a really intriguing topic to bring up with these Knicks, right? Unfortunately, I'm a little pissed off about this, which I want to get your thoughts of it. The Knicks do not extend Emmanuel quickly. He is going to be a restricted free agent after this season. Now, there could be a lot of trade speculations that's going to be probably coming up with IQ. The Joel Embiid rumors and all these things. And if the Knicks did not come to a contract extension with IQ, you have to assume, is he expendable via trade, or is he going to stay with the Knicks all season long? Is he going to walk in free agency, or maybe the Knicks actually sign him next offseason? I don't know. A lot of things are on the table, but the reality is Emmanuel Quickley's a damn dog. I love the addition of Dante DiVincenzo, Josh Hart. Isaiah Hartenstein has proved to me that he is a very good backup center, and Tom Thibodeau, we all know, loves to roll in RJ Barrett with that second team. So this Knicks team is deep. They're going to play fast, and I think their biggest strength as well is going to be sticking to the roots on defense. In the preseason, they kind of struggled defensively, defending the perimeter, and that's what they got to get to, Tyler. Tom Thibodeau is a defensive-minded coach, and he's kind of evolving and adapting to the modern-day NBA, shooting a lot of threes, and offensively, he's adapting, but his defense is very old school, and it worked, but sometimes it doesn't, and I'm really hoping that they can tighten things up. Quentin Grimes is going to be that elite perimeter defender that's going to defend every single player the Knicks go up against on the perimeter. Then you got Mitchell Robinson defending the paint, but I think defense is where it all comes down to. But I did want to ask you this question about the Knicks not extending Emmanuel Quickley. What are your thoughts of that? Do you think that's a big mistake? In my opinion, it feels like the Knicks gave him an offer that was team-friendly, and IQ and his agent probably thought, hey, we can get way more money on the open market in the offseason.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to not look at this situation and not see it kind of biting the Knicks in the ass a little bit, right? IQ had a phenomenal year. Many people were believing him as being a six man. That's how good he looked for the majority of the season for the Knicks. Of course, we saw what happened there in postseason, dealing with his ailments as well. But IQ is just getting started in his career. What he has been able to do off the bench, no less, cold, ice cold, plenty of times, just balling out 3 after 3 after 3, helping out on defense. There's no pun intended. He has that speediness to him and his agility. It's slim to none. There's so many qualities about IQ's game that you love, and also the selflessness that IQ brings as well. You see a lot with a lot of younger guys in today's NBA that maybe aren't interested in basically being more of a six man versus, being in that starting line. That's not an easy thing. And we've seen other guys, like, let's take, whether it's justified or not, Obi Toppin's time with the Knicks coming to an end because he wasn't necessarily getting the playing time that he was hoping, and granted, deserved plenty of those times as well. But you can see that having this bond and being on Tom Thibodeau's side as well is really vital. This is going to be a big year for IQ. He's got a chip on his shoulder, wasn't getting that extension that I'm sure he was wanting, what the Knicks wanted to do. They weren't able to meet in the middle, and now he's going to hopefully have himself a great year. But a lot of questions come with IQ now. One,
Yeah.
his role, is it going to be near identical to what it was last year? If not, how much more of a say, a play is he going to have in this active lineup? And two, for him, once the season is done, regardless on what the Knicks do, if say they have a dominant year, say they struggle, say they do look great and fall short in playoffs, whatever is going to happen at the season's end and when the year is done for the Knicks, you have to wonder for IQ, is he going to be in a position where is money the number one priority? Is it comfortability? Is it being here in New York and wanting to be a part of what they're building, knowing that he will say continue to have not only a pivotal role, but potentially increased role more as the years go forward? Or is this a situation where he knows that he's going to basically be in that six-man type spot with the Knicks and he could be guaranteed plenty more minutes every single night with a different club that's going to give him a similar contract? Like, what is best for him and his career projection? That is really where I have the biggest question mark and why I'm frustrated as a fan, because giving him that ability now to be out there and available in the market a year from now is something where, should the Knicks even bring him back, they're likely going to need to bring him back on a pretty penny that they wouldn't have had to pay nearly to the degree that they would have paid in a normal extension. And this goes not only for the Knicks, but for any sport, right? It's always frustrating when these things happen. You have a young, promising talent that just had a remarkable year and is only going to get better, and you weren't able to ink him on a deal, because even if it wasn't team friendly, it's still likely going to be a friendlier contract than what he's going to get a year from now.
And
so I think you and I feel the same in regards to the IQ front.
And you look at what the Knicks have done. They've extended their own. They gave RJ Barrett the extension. They gave Mitchell Robinson the extension. They just extended Josh Hart, right? They gave Julius Randle even a second contract. So I thought that Emmanuel Quickley will be that guy to get that second contract. But we will see if the Knicks can come to an agreement in the offseason. And, you know, IQ spoke to the media. He wants it behind him. He doesn't want to talk about it anymore. Let's go out there and play ball. IQ continues to be one of my favorite players on this entire team. So I was just a little heartbroken to see him not getting paid and extended. Folks, please do us a gigantic favor and simply hit that thumbs up button if you're tuning in. And also let us know in the chat how pumped up you are for Knicks basketball being
Let's go,
back
baby.
tonight.
Come on.
I'm so excited, man. It's been a long time coming. Woo-wee. Let's get into the chat. Let's see what people are talking about. We got a Yankees fan in the chat. Yankees fan forever says Knicks winning 50 games. Now, this perfectly segues into my next question I have for you guys in the chat.
Even your topics, how you had them listed, you know, off air, perfectly in line with this.
Perfectly in line. So, guys, the Knicks win total this season is at 45.5. Now, I don't know about that. It's a little disrespectful, Las Vegas, if you're asking me. I think they're winning 46 games. If you're asking me, where's your money on this, Tyler? Over or under?
Yeah, I mean, given how the sports books are currently looking, gotta hammer the over on this one. Gotta hammer the over. I mean, it would really be foolish not to. Of course, this very well could be a wishy-washy next season where they still do make playoffs, but they are teetering, you know, closer to 500 for a bit. That very much is in the cards, because you can't predict inevitable injuries that happen every season, every single club. You can't necessarily predict inconsistencies, like if they're going to have a drought. When exactly is that going to be? We've seen the inconsistencies with Thibodeau and his coaching in years past, but if Thibodeau proved us fans anything towards the end of last season, heading into playoffs, is that he was finally willing and understanding to adjust. This is a Tom Thibodeau that has been really, really hard to break what he likes, and to break away from that is not an easy thing, but he finally showed his ability to do that. And if Tibbs can keep that similar playoff mindset throughout the regular season, then I'm loving the Knicks' chances of here not only having another really strong year, but a more consistent year, a team that knows what it takes to kind of get to the point that they got. Again, they lost to a Miami Heat team that, of course, had those weapons, but more than anything, they've had those recent experience thanks to Jimmy Buckets, of course, thanks to Lowry, what those guys have been able to do. You see the Knicks team now, they're getting more of this rep. They're getting more of these reps under their wing at the playoff level. It's only going to bode them well to get to the point of where they want to be. So I think this is an easy hammer for me. All bias aside, I'm taking Knicks over on 45.
I mean, hey, look at it this way. They had 47 wins last year. I mean, is anybody expecting a regression from the Knicks? I mean, the only way I can see a regression is
if they can't handle expectations.
That and an injury, right? I just feel like if this Knicks team is healthy and we're into another season with Tom Thibodeau, and let's just not forget about this player we have on this Knicks team who was playing like a damn superstar last year. That is Jalen Brunson. Now, I know the word superstar might sound a little like, whoa, Richie, relax. But let me just remind you folks of what Jalen Brunson did last season. He got better and better and better and better and better as the season goes on. If you stretch the final 3 months of the regular seaon and even include the playoffs, that man is averaging over 28 a game on an efficient clip. He's not putting up volume and going, 13 for 35 every night. He's putting up like 20 shots, hitting like 13 of those shots a game. And I mean, you look at the numbers, he was putting up superstar level stuff. And I think what makes you a superstar in this league is if you can win because of this player. And obviously it's a team sport, which is basketball. But I really think that Jalen Brunson has a chance here to not only make the All-Star team, which by the way, he was snubbed last season, but he's the guy that I'm like, oh my gosh, we have a point guard, number one, because Knicks fans, let's not forget, we've been in point guard purgatory, at least my entire life at 25 years old. I've never had a franchise point guard. We've had a new starting point guard every single season. So, newsflash, this is the first season that we have a point guard that's starting at that position back-to-back seasons. And I really believe that Jalen Brunson is a lot better than people believe. And I think the biggest factor for it, Tyler, is his clutch ability. I mean, what I saw in the playoffs, him being poised, he basically did everything in the playoffs that Knicks fans have been so frustrated with Julius Randle not doing, right? Randle is this talented, like, ferocious basketball player that just crumbles under pressure mentally. Jalen Brunson, it's like, oh, the pressure's here, doesn't matter. I'm going to get it to my spot. I'm going to be efficient. I'm going to make the right read. So what's your expectation for Jalen Brunson this season? And do you think that there's another level to his game he could even tap into in year two with these Knicks?
Yes, everyone needs to pay close attention to Jalen Brunson, as I'm sure many of you Knicks fans did in year one. Really got to lock in now, because year one, you're trying to see, okay, we know this guy's good, but just how good is he? You saw his progression. You saw his growth right before your eyes, quite literally being our own homegrown talent, if you will. Yes, he's not, essentially from New York, and he went to Villanova, but having the connections with his family, being a part of the organization as is, certainly doesn't hurt. And now to see him have the dominant first year as a starting guard for the Knicks, this is still just the beginning for Jalen Brunson. This is going to be another step, another stone in the right direction for him in his career. This, in my opinion, will be his best season to date. I think he's going to take that confidence that he's built not only from this past playoffs, but the year before that, which is exactly why the Knicks went in hand with targeting him, because of how well he did filling in those shoes for Doncic. That is what put him on the map this past season. It was what truly has made him, what many believe, including myself, a star. And you cannot you cannot push this aside or slouch at this and think that Jalen Brunson isn't one of the best guards in the game right now. He literally is, and he's going to continue to prove that. And what is one of the few things that the Knicks have been needing so much in recent years? They've been needing that closer. Who are you going to hand the ball to down the stretch when you need it most? As much as Julius Randle has had plenty of great moments in a Knicks uniform over the years, he is not that guy on a night-to-night basis. Jalen Brunson is that guy. Even when dealing with ailments, you know that you can count on him more often than not. So we're talking about confidence, talking about what is going to be a big year. That is going to be the case here for Jalen Brunson. Beyond excited for what this year is going to be.
I'm so excited for him, man. I was so impressed with his just ability to just get better and better as the season goes on, and his mentality.
Too. Like for his body, he knows how to work it so well.
And my favorite part about his game is, like, he kind of plays like a big man at the point guard spot. Like, his footwork is just off the charts. I mean, he gets into the low post, he just picks up his dribble, and he just go whoop, whoop, up and under, easy, or dish it down low to Mitch. He's a different kind of guy, right? He's not athletic. He's not going to blow by you and dunk on your face, but he doesn't need to be. I feel like his style of basketball is a very unique type of player, and I think that Knicks fans fell in love with him last year, and we're going to fall in love with him even more this season. Eric agrees. Jalen Brunson is the real deal. Yes, indeed. Angels in the chat. Salute, Knicks family. Salute to you, as always. Kelvin, which is probably one of the most loyal Knicks media supporters since day number one. Kelvin,
what's
make
good,
sure
Kelvin?
You hit that like button, subscribe, hit that bell. Kelvin, great to see your face again, my man. Appreciate you. Corey's in the chat saying, Richie, regardless if the Knicks win or lose, you will still be my updated Knicks post-gamer. Love you, bro. Corey, this means so much to me, bro. I really do appreciate that. Definitely stay tuned for post-game videos, and we're going to be live tomorrow morning as well with another special guest, which I'm excited to have on the channel. So expect a lot of Knicks content throughout the entire season, which I'm super, super excited about. Now, we talked about Jalen Brunson because guess what? He's the face of the Knicks at this point. But I feel like there are some guys that have a chance to be breakout players. And the first guy that comes to my mind, who I've been hyping up all offseason, and I've been telling my friends off air that, like, dude, this guy has a chance to really step up. Maybe not be a star player, but, like, really step up and take the Knicks to another level, and that is Quentin Grimes.
Damn right, it's Quentin Grimes.
Quentin Grimes, dude, like he is about to take over the league. I mean, bro, can we just talk about his defense real quick? Do you guys remember that play when he's on one leg, strips Jimmy buckets clean? I mean, dude, that was like one of those moments that every Knicks fan all together was just like, oh my God, that's a Knicks fan dream. Seeing a young player that we drafted with the 25th overall pick in the playoffs grit out a play where he's on one leg and strips the superstar of Jimmy Butler clean. That just like solidified him in everyone's hearts, even though we all loved him to that point. But the reason why I bring him up, Tyler, for this reason, he came into the league as a 3-and-D type of player, but I think that his ceiling is way bigger than that. I'm seeing someone that's developing into a 3-level scorer, somebody that could put the ball on the floor, handle a pick and roll, drive to the cup. We've seen a lot of flashy dishes down low to Mitchell Robinson, not to mention his defense is off the charts and his sharpshooting ability from beyond the arc is next level. But I think outside of the 3-and-D ability, he's shown flashes to be able to, again, put the ball on the floor, take people off the dribble, attack the paint with vengeance, and if someone, comes up to try to block his shot, he dishes it down low to Mitchell Robinson. I'm seeing a kid that's just developing before his eyes. And going to year 3, he's got 2 seasons of experience underneath his belt. I'm excited about him. So what do you expect for year 3 of Quentin Grimes with this team, starting around RJ Barrett, Jalen Brunson, and Julius Randle and Mitchell Robinson?
See, keyword starting, right? It's always going to come down to the playing time with these young guys because it's hard to predict here and say that, oh, this guy's going to have a breakout year when he might have all the talent, but maybe he's just in the doghouse with Tibbs. We've seen that with players in years past. You need to make sure that you get on Tibbs' right side first, and then we can see how much you're going to flourish in the starting lineup. But with him having that starting role that he currently has, having that experience from this past year, already being in one of the better 3-point shooters in all the NBA. I mean, statistically, he is amongst the best already at a borderline elite status with how well he's shooting deep from 3. So between his defense, between the 3-ball ability, I think we're going to have a Quentin Grimes here. Last season averaged around 11 points, and with his utilization this year, easily could see him in that averaging 15+ point per game category. It wouldn't shock me whatsoever. Again, just got to make sure, get the ball in his hands, get a little bit more trust too, because we've seen some games with Grimes where, not that he lacks confidence, but the ball just isn't getting to him nearly as much. And say if he is starting off slow with his shooting, he might just end up with, say a 6-point night, but he was out there for a good amount of time. So building that confidence, that defense is what's going to help keep him on the court. Because if there's one thing that Tom Thibodeau appreciates so much, it's a guy that can go end to end without a problem. And Grimes can certainly do his part against the best when he's covering. So Quentin Grimes, definitely a guy to keep an eye on this year. You took the words out of my mouth when you asked me before we went live, who's a guy you think is going to bowl out? Because don't get me wrong, IQ, love him. He's a guy that I think is going to continue to have another good season, better than last year. I think we're going to see overall improvement with everyone on this roster for the most part. But Quentin Grimes is someone that people are really going to start to pay attention to this season if they haven't already from the years past.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what we're talking about here. Knicks fans love Grimes. We know what he brings to the table, but I think there's going to be a national spotlight more on Quentin Grimes this season. We got the first super chat of the night. Oh, it comes from my man, Lascelles, who does represent his Brooklyn Nets. He is a Jets fan that's always on Jets media. Let's go. NBA is back. I'm not going to say that last part, but good luck to your Brooklyn Nets, okay? Good luck. We appreciate the support on Knicks Media, as always, Lascelles. To the $2 donation really helps out a lot, man. Really do appreciate you big time. Now, I do want to talk about the bench unit because I feel like the bench is very deep, and we have a new addition to talk about, which will be off the bench, which is Dante DiVincenzo, which I think is another guy that, we don't really know what to expect. I know we saw him in preseason, but it's just preseason. But, dude, we move off of Obi Toppin, which I know a lot of Knicks fans at the time were frustrated with. I think he's going to go crazy with Indiana. Good luck, Obi Toppin.
Love you, Obi. Seriously,
love you,
wish
Obi.
you the
Nothing
best.
but love. But what Dante DiVincenzo brings to the bench unit is shooting. And we have shooting off the bench already with Emmanuel Quickly. And I think that the chemistry with Dante mixed with Josh Hart, that they're going to get Jalen Brunson on the floor with Dante DiVincenzo as well with those chemistries that they got together from the Nova days. But I really love this bench unit. And just to remind you guys of how it's going to work, right? The starting 5 is a starting 5, but RJ Barrett's going to be the first one onto the bench because he's resting to play with that second unit to start off that second quarter. So the second quarter is going to be Emmanuel Quickly, Dante DiVincenzo, RJ Barrett, Josh Hart, and Isaiah Hartenstein. That's the most likely second unit for these New York Knicks. So what's your expectations for the Knicks bench, and how do you think Dante DiVincenzo is going to look in his Knicks debut, and how he really just fits with this, in his perspective, his brand new team, which is the New York Knicks?
Yeah, man, sign me up with all the Villanova boys. Seriously, it feels like yesterday they were winning their championships. I reside 45 minutes out of Villanova, so like when everything was going on with them at their peak, wide was watching it big time. Love the run that they had, and now to see all these guys together, all we need is Bridges. He's so close yet so far, but hopefully at some point we'll bring him over into Knicks Town too. But Dante, I'm excited for him, man. He's done great as a role player in recent years. Of course, he's been on championship caliber clubs. When you get a chance to play not only for the Warriors, but had the experience that he did to start his career there in Milwaukee, I mean, that in itself is just endless knowledge that he's bringing to this youthful Knicks team. Even though that Dante isn't too much of a veteran in today's NBA, he's still a younger player. When you look at the amount of youth currently on this roster, especially on the bench, this is going to help them in spades, especially after losing someone like Derrick Rose, who of course has his own type of positive veteran type leadership impact. Of course, very different players. I'm well aware of that. Point stands though, you're going to have Dante coming off the bench. He's going to be that gritty, that snarly player for you. He's going to be able to get in the corners. He can drop those threes when needed. He's just that nice balanced guy that you want off the bench. But again, given the recent experience he's had to this point in his NBA career, I can only imagine that's going to do wonders for this youthful Knicks team that are really trying to find those little edges and just understand more, not only about what it means to be playing Knicks basketball, but knowing what it means to really get deep into those playoff type atmospheres. Because again, we saw plenty of Knicks thrive in this past year's playoffs, but we also saw some fall. And it's a matter of how are they going to be able to pick up one another and really come in as a unison, as a group. Dante, I think, brings a nice, interesting element that is going to be both beneficial on the court and, of course, there in the locker room.
Yeah, the locker room is so important. And we saw Josh Hart just come into the Knicks in the trade deadline, and we're just like, oh my God, let's go on a 9-game winning streak with Josh Hart. So you add Dante, the Villanova boys, it's just something special, man.
And it's a chemistry thing too. I just want to add, like, people don't seem to realize sometimes just how important chemistry is, right? Of course, yes, you have teammates from different teams, so it's not like the most shocking thing. Okay, say they're really getting along well, but this is a core group that won championships together at the national level, right? And they've kept this bond. They've kept this really close relationship since then. These guys are going to cook. I really do think that's going to happen. I think that the type of bond that they have is going to help do them wonders as well, and kind of maybe at times, hopefully take a little bit of the pressure, stress off of Thibodeau's shoulders, because of course he's so anal and so stressed about every single little thing. If we're going to see some loose basketball, hopefully it's loose basketball in the sense of the Knicks having fun, balling out, and just looking like a team that's a step ahead versus a lot of other clubs.
100%, man. The chemistry is so important, and it's something that we don't really get to see in the offseason, but now you got all this, literally the same exact team as last year, plus you add in Dante, who already has chemistry off the charts with Josh Hart and Jalen Brunson. It's just a recipe for success, if you ask me. Awesome LA Lascelles comes in with another super chat, this time a $5 super chat. Thank you, my friend. All love my guy, just never liked your owner. No ill will with the fan base. Well, you know what? We all have our fair opinions on Dolan, even as Knicks fans.
Can I say one thing about Dolan?
Of course.
So I got to give the guy props. He of course is the owner of the Las Vegas Sphere, and he said, you know what? I'm just gonna have the Sphere be our sponsor. Even though Squarespace looked dope, I think it's better looking than that little Sphere logo that you got in the top corner. But I gotta say, it's a little funny. Dolan's like, all right, you know what? I'll just do it myself.
Do my own brand. I actually am going to be at the MSG Sphere in a couple weeks because I'm going to Vegas for the Jets Raiders game. And I bought tickets for the Sphere because it looks crazy, and I'm like, I gotta go.
Nuts! It's so sick. I'm jealous. Guys, show me what it's like when you go there.
Yeah, I'm excited for that. But Lascelles, as always, appreciate the support, man. Even though you are a Brooklyn Nets fan, Corey says it will be very important to think about IQ extension during the offseason. I would love to keep IQ for another 4 years for at least 90 or 110 mil. That will be great. Unfortunately, the extension talks are over, so we cannot really talk about it at all throughout the season. And the next time they get a chance to do it is in the offseason. So, and he'll also be a restricted free agent, which does work in the Knicks' favor from the perspective that they can match any offer that is coming his way. Maybe you can do a sign and trade if he does move on, which we're all hoping he doesn't. But as a giant Emmanuel Quickley fan, we don't want you going anywhere, man. Stay here. We don't want you leaving these New York Knicks. Now, I am curious to get your thoughts of a specific player, that being RJ Barrett, because I think RJ Barrett is a very interesting just overall, his Knicks career has been up and down. I feel like his biggest issue so far has been consistency. He goes crazy for 2 weeks where you're like, dude, this guy's going to be an all-star. And then he goes to the point where you're like, dude, this guy going on the bench? Like, he can't even hit a layup. So it's just such an up and down thing with RJ. He needs to find his stride. And I think that another year with Jalen Brunson organizing things for him, what is your expectations for RJ Barrett this season? Does he have a chance to improve? Does he have a chance to really prove to Knicks fans that he has a consistency? Because if you look at the numbers, I mean, the best trait for RJ that I love is his availability. He's healthy pretty much every single season. You know, last year he didn't score as many points in his year 3, but he shot more efficiently, right? So last year at 19.6 points per game, 43.4% from the field, shot only 31% from downtown, but had 5 rebounds, 3 assists. So, like, what's your expectations from RJ Barrett? I'm definitely seeing him eclipse that 20 points per game mark, if you're asking me.
My expectations for RJ Barrett this year is that he can hopefully really emphasize his strengths. Yes, he's a young player, and yes, he has a lot more growing to do. And what that means is you have to take more risks, right? High risk, high reward with someone like him, who's kind of been at a little bit of a stagnant in his career, really, over the past couple of years. He hasn't taken a ginormous growth when you look at his point production per game, consistency, more lack thereof, things of that nature. But when RJ's on, he can take over. We saw how much of an impact he had in last year's playoffs. And not only when he's right, but also when he's wrong. You know, if you have RJ when right, he can 100% help take over games. And when he's not right, especially with the 3 ball that I'm going to emphasize here quite a bit in a second, that is where we can find ourselves trouble. Let's just take a great example of that Knicks-Clippers game that you and I were in attendance of, in which the Clippers won in overtime back in, I think it was January, right? What stood out in that game? It was a RJ Barrett that threw more threes than you could possibly imagine and missed the vast majority of them. I think, if I'm not mistaken, that might have been one, if not the worst 3-point game that RJ Barrett has had in his career. Now, the reason why I'm highlighting that specific game is because we have seen a trend with RJ Barrett when he gets a little happy with the 3 ball and things aren't going right. I feel like there's a part of him that's very adamant about getting that right at some point in the game versus adjusting. And something that we see a lot of the case with veterans, if say they don't have their shot that night, it's what are they going to do to combat that? Okay. Are they going to be shooting more for 2? And that's something where you look at RJ, he has had his struggles of. It's been those mid-game adjustments. I feel like he's been too stubborn on himself, too hard on himself if his shot is not falling early on in a game. And of course, we've seen him have a terrible first half and a great second half. This year, even if he's only averaging still around 20 points, that is not a big deal to me. What is going to be most pivotal, and we said this a lot last year too, is that consistency. And that's also knowing when to take a step away and say, hey, okay, say, you know, I'm over my last 5 on threes and I'm being a little selfish here. You know, you had a couple open lanes for guys that hit separate threes or to get someone down deep, and you just decide not to do it. Okay, this is where you need to act a little bit more selfless and either mix things up, be a little bit more playmaker that night, or of course be dropping more 2s. That is what I want to see with RJ Barrett most this season. When it comes to his availability, that's huge. And that's something where he already has impressed more, you could argue, than Ja Morant and Zion Williamson, because he has been able to stay on the court, right? I mean, seriously, phenomenal talents, right? Love them both for different reasons. But point stands, is the most important thing is availability. That's what RJ brings you. So knowing that that is not the concern at this point in RJ's career is huge. That helps in Nick's case here. Now it's about just finding that consistency in his game and just knowing when is the time to pivot and make your proper adjustments in game, instead of thinking, okay, my 3 ball has been dropping for the first 2 quarters, it hit in 3, and then say it goes away for 4. Like I just hope we see a lack of stubbornness this season, where I feel like we saw at plenty of points throughout last year with RJ.
Yeah, and I think to, just double down on your take about his availability also, there's no off-the-court issues to worry about with RJ. He's clean. You know what he's getting. He's professional.
He's the Maple Mamba, baby. What's there to get on him?
And I also want to give my man RJ some credit, too, here. He is very clutch. Okay, you go look at RJ's career clutch moments for the Knicks, you kind of forget, like, whoa, he's had many. And not to say that, there's some not clutch abilities. Sometimes he misses a clutch shot, but I feel like more often than not, whether it's the game winner against the Boston Celtics off the bank, whether it was that corner shot at home, who was that against? I think it was the Raptors, if I'm not mistaken. That dunk he had coast to coast, a game where I was at, which was his rookie season or year number 2 against the Memphis Grizzlies, where he helped beat them in overtime, which kind of propelled the Knicks to go on
Oh,
that
big
9-game
game.
winning
Big
streak
game for RJ.
in the
Remember
first
that.
place.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of clutch genes within RJ Barrett, and I think that that's something in his favor, and the Knicks got to really utilize him a lot. And
And
obviously,
that's
Jalen
supporting
Brunson.
cast as well. I'm sorry to
Yeah.
cut you off. I
No,
just,
it's good.
this is an RJ that is not on the same Knicks roster when he first arrived in the league. You know, I mean, there's far more weapons around him. There's far more unity and understanding. And I think him embracing what role he has on this team, another year of fully grasping it, because again, he went into last season really not having the full grasp of what was happening with Jalen Brunson. Yes, they had their practices. Yes, they had their workouts. And yes, they had preseason, but they still need to display it throughout a normal 82-game regular season. Now you come in with over a year with JB under your belt, or Randall not being as selfish of a Randall that we've seen in years past, because he doesn't need to be that closer. And you look at all these elements in the supporting cast, the surrounding cast that RJ has with him, and you just have to say to yourself, this feels like the prime opportunity to start to get more of the best out of RJ, because he knows he doesn't need to be the guy at every given night.
Yeah.
He just needs to be a guy that can help factor in and play his game. If he can play his game, then the rest is history. I think we're going to be in good hands with him.
And I think his biggest thing he needs to improve on is definitely the decision making. I think that sometimes he has some turnover issues, and he kind of just gets a little rattled. But
head scratching one too, and you're like, what? Like, why did you what was the point here, RJ? I don't understand.
Man. And the one thing I do have to give RJ a lot of credit for as well, before we move on, is his mental fortitude, his ability to handle adversity, right? There's a lot of times where he can get really low, but he doesn't get too high, doesn't get too low. It's that mentality that I really, really respect for RJ Barrett. Now, another player who is probably the most polarizing player on the Knicks roster. I mean, which is, it's funny, right? This guy has been a Knick for years and years and years, and he's had a lot of accolades. All NBA, most improved player, all-star. He dominates the regular season, and then he crumbles when we need him the most, and that's Julius Randle. So, I don't know. It's just a really interesting conversation. First of all, this is funny. I'm a little thrown off by his haircut, because that haircut that he has reminds me of his first year with the Knicks, when he never shot any threes, and now he's hitting step-back threes with that haircut. Just doesn't sit well in my brain, but that's just a little fun thing I noticed. Now, Julius Randle, you look up his stats, guys, you're like, wow, this guy's a star. Well, guess what? He is a star, because he's made 2 all-star appearances with the New York Knicks. I mean, last year, and talk about availability, this man has played 98% of the games with these New York Knicks. That is rare, especially in today's NBA, where people
and for the type of game
off.
that Randall plays, especially
he
when he's
averages
doubled up.
45 minutes a game, because Thibodeau's a maniac. Last year, Julius Randle, he put up 25 a game on 46% from the field, 10 rebounds, and 4 assists. Now, those stats are off the charts. But then you bring up the playoff stats, and you're like, where did it go? Where did it go? So my question to you is, what's your expectation for Julius Randle in year 2 next to Jalen Brunson? Because I think that's a big thing for Julius Randle, to now have a year underneath his belt of not being the guy, right? When we were that 4th seed and we were like, oh my God, the Knicks are back, that first year with, Tom Thibodeau making coach of the year, all those awesome things. But we have to see Julius Randle be able to take a step back and allow Jalen Brunson to control the show. And I think he's done that. I feel like Julius Randle's put his ego aside a little bit, but what do you want to see him this year to kind of improve and maximize his game? Because when Randle's playing at his best, he's a dominant force. But again, he has to step up when the pressure's at its highest before any Knicks fan really convinces themselves that this guy actually is the face of the Knicks. So what's your overall thoughts of Julius Randle going into this season?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we've continued to have this Jekyll and Hyde emotion when it comes to Julius Randle, because you've seen the dominance and you've seen the frustration and you've seen more of the hiccups and those clutch moments when you want Julius to be the guy to lead the way for you in times where, say, Brunson can't. Because as great as Brunson is, on average, even young stars like Jalen are not going to be at their absolute best every single night. And especially on those nights where you need to pick me up. If, say, Jalen is dealing with his injuries that he dealt with plenty of with his hand last year, you need guys to step up. And Julius, that's kind of what I'm looking for. We saw him truly have a remarkable season last year. But why did he fall short in playoffs? Well, let's not forget the injury, the serious injury that he had with that ankle sprain, if I'm not mistaken,
Yeah, that
heading
surgery over
into
the
playoffs.
offseason.
Exactly. Like that was a big deal what happened with him, right? And I don't want to use that as a complete excuse because at the end of the day, when you're playing playoff basketball, everyone is beaten up. Everyone is hanging on by a thread. So I don't want to be that guy to say, well, if Julius was completely healthy, he would have dominated because we don't know that. We've seen Julius in the spotlight when healthy and completely looked shelled out. I mean, we of course know what happened in that short series against the Hawks a couple of years ago. Different Julius then, point being is he still has yet to prove his worth at the playoff level. And I think for Julius, we're going to probably see more of the same this year. I expect him to have a very impressive regular season, but come playoff time, it's really going to be how much is he going to be in the mindset of wanting it? And two, that health will, of course, be a factor. If the Knicks can luck out and have the majority of their core group, say around 80% healthy relative heading into playoffs, then that's massive. You just got to hope that you're avoiding any serious elements like he dealt with, unfortunately, right towards the end of the regular season, in which he was never even remotely close to healthy throughout playoffs. He was grinding it. He was dropping threes when he was in excruciating pain. We saw what happened with other players, even opponents like Jimmy Butler, for example. I mean, everyone's ankles or feet were all getting cooked left and right. And Randall, if he can stay healthy, of course, like those chances. But this, in my opinion, is close to that make or break it, right? Like if the Knicks go and have this similar regular season, he has that similar success. I mean, there's very little excuses at this point. He just needs to trust his gut. And Julius, more than anything, he needs to trust what got him to this point. I think for him, he struggles with that mental fortitude at times. He's dealt with a lot of criticism, some plenty justified and some plenty not justified. We know how New Yorkers are, especially this Knicks fan base. The guy could drop 30 that night and they're pissed off because he missed those two shots later on. Like, that's just how it is in the game.
I think the attitude thing is where it comes to Knicks fans with Julius. Like when he when he shrugs his shoulders, and I don't really think we saw this a lot last year, by the way.
We didn't. He did a really good job at bouncing back with how he approached media. Give him a lot of credit because he came a long way after going such a high.
And that's what Knicks fans want to see. We want to see hustle. We want to see that you care. We want to see that you're putting everything you possibly can on that court. And I feel like at times throughout his career with the Knicks, he's shown like the opposite. And that's where the boos come. That's where, we're rooting for you, Julius. But when you go out there and have a pout in your face, you don't look like the leader that we're all expecting you to be. That's when Knicks fans are going to be, a little frustrated. And I'm looking at his numbers in terms of like his first 4 seasons with the Knicks. His big breakout year, which was 2020, he averaged 24 that season. And then last year, he's coming off a career high, 25 a game. I mean, that's with Jalen Brunson. So, like...
And that's what you mean. And it's not being talked about as much, I feel like. And the reason is because Jalen stepped into that spotlight. And that's what's helping Randall thrive and focus on his own game the same way that RJ does. Again, Randall doesn't need to be the it guy on a night-to-night basis, but he needs to be that supporting cast with Jalen, especially when Jalen is down, and vice versa. If Julius is really struggling, Jalen, how many times last year did we see Jalen pick up Julius when, say, he was having a rough game? Now, granted, those rough games weren't as often, but when we did see some of those single-digit games here or there, Jalen was balling out. The ball was staying in his hands, and Julius, I can respect, understood that assignment and knew that, okay, this is Jalen's game. I'm going to be the playmaker tonight. I'm going to work the boards. I'm going to do what I can. And that, again, is what I credit not only Randall for, but going back to RJ for a second, something that I hope we see more of RJ. Again, great mental fortitude at his age, but also understanding your role, especially in nights where you don't have it and your shot isn't falling. What can you do to come together as a group? Randall has exemplified that plenty more over the past year, and hopefully we see more of the same. Just got to hope that clutch, that it factor starts to come with him more when they need it most.
100%, man. I think that another cool thing about the Knicks is we're not relying on Brunson and Randall to do everything because of the depth that we have. Grimes can have a night. You got quickly hot off the bench. It could be RJ's night. I mean, there's a lot of talent on this team, and not even to mention the players that we have to bring up that will definitely have an impact this season with Deuce McBride and Jericho Sims. I think those two guys definitely deserve some, just spotlight because those guys are like the real depth, right? If there's any injuries, unfortunately, to a guard or a forward or a center, those are the first 2 guys off the bench. And I think that Knicks fans have grown to really love McBride and love Jericho Sims. I mean, their youth, their energy. Tom Thibodeau has been raving about the development of Jericho Sims.
Love Deuce.
Both of those players are really fun, and it's cool how deep we are. We're like, damn it, I want those guys to play. And then there's another guy who's actually getting paid a lot of money who just doesn't play football, doesn't play basketball anymore for the Knicks, and that's Evan Fournier, which is like, I feel bad for the guy. They just trade him.
Here's I feel bad for him. Well, actually, I don't feel bad for him. You know how many millions he's making to sit on the bench? Okay, if I was in his pit, don't get me wrong. I understand the frustration. He did not get to where he's at in his career without being a really good basketball player and grinding his ass off and only focusing on basketball. So to take away what is normally an everyday player who signed a contract, a big contract with a team, expecting to be an everyday player, to basically being out of their rotation entirely, where the guy's just, collecting dust on the bench, doing his best Waterboy impression out here. Like, yeah, there's frustration. I'm kind of left wondering, do you want to start Evan tonight just because you're playing the Celtics?
I was about to say, let's start him tonight, and then he's done for the rest of the year, because that man just lights up. I'll never forget that overtime game I told you about. I was at versus Celtics 2 years ago. I was like, dude, Evan Fournier is like the best thing I've ever seen on this Knicks team shooting the ball from downtown. It was wild. And, that was a crazy game. And, getting back into tonight's matchup, which is the opener against the Boston Celtics, I think the key to this game is going to be down low with Mitchell Robinson.
Yep.
Mitchell Robinson is a guy who has proven to be one of the best, if not the best, offensive rebounder in the entire league. The ability to get the second chance looks and the second chance opportunities for the Knicks has been really, really beneficial. Getting that board, whether it's kicking it back out there to an open shooter or just going back up and dunking it home. I think the free throw shooting needs to improve with Mitch, but that's every single year. And I think, him going up against the big boys, and Al Horford and Kristaps Porzingis tonight is going to be a big matchup, especially with Julius Randle. So how do you think the Knicks match up front court wise against these Boston Celtics tonight? Because it's not going to be easy. Everybody on that starting five for the Celtics can shoot the ball from downtown, so it's going to be really hard defensively to be able to contain Porzingis. Horford can shoot as well, not to mention, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. So, how do you see these Knicks match up against the Celtics tonight down low?
I don't know if it's how I see it, but I'll tell you how I want to see it. I want to see the Knicks play a little gritty tonight. I want to see some dirt on their skin. That's the type of game that I want to see
90s Knicks,
from the Knicks team, especially against the Celtics club. You want to make a statement to start the season, right? This is a Celtics team that, again, you thankfully have had the upper hand on plenty over the past year and a half, but you want to continue that. You want to remind the Celtics why they've had their struggles with the Knicks over the past year and a half, 2 years now. You want to make sure that's very familiar in their head. Porzingis being back at the Garden too, it's going to be a very exciting atmosphere. But there's one thing that we know about Kristaps, it's his struggle, one-on-one. He struggles. For as big of a guy as he is, you can push him off the ball a little bit, right? And I think Mitch definitely has the upper hand in that regard. That's where I want to see him. I want to be hard-nosed on the boards there. Get out in front, get in front of his ass as much as you can. I really, matchup-wise, I like this a lot for the Knicks. And maybe that's why, if say the Knicks do falter tonight, maybe that's why. Because I feel like in previous matchups between these two teams, we initially went into it, when the Knicks had their first impressive win against the Celtics last season, which if I'm not mistaken, I don't know if it was a blowout. I think it might have just been was it a back and forth? Was it a tight game or was it a blowout?
I was there for one of the Knicks wins over the Celtics last year, later in the season at home. Okay. And it was when Mitch blocked Tatum at the rim. It was that game.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, that was a big game.
Sick game. And it went down to the fourth quarter. No, I think it was close, and then we just kind of blew the doors off of them in the fourth quarter, if I'm not mistaken.
But that's what I mean. This is something that was not apparent for the Celtics team much at all last year. And the Knicks kind of gave them that big old slice of humble pie. So that's what I want to see more of. Just show the aggressiveness and more than anything, feed off the energy. It's home opener at the Garden. Knicks
I wish
fans,
I was going.
I know, dude. I'm not even remotely close right now, and I wish I was there at the moment too. Trust me. But the Garden's gonna be popping tonight. Knicks fans, if you're going to the game, make sure you're screaming your head off from start to finish.
Is there anybody going to the game tonight? Let us know in the chat. Anybody?
Yeah, let us know in the chat. Anyone that's heading to the Mecca, please make sure to have a fantastic time. Hopefully it's a game in the next direction tonight. But more thing, just be loud. Be loud. It's the start of the season, especially. Back the boys up. We have seen what this Knicks team can do when they start to rally around their fans. This is a Knicks team that has had plenty of struggles in recent years at the Garden in particular. Even last year, they had struggles at the Garden early on. But when they really started picking things up, they were finally starting to take home court in their favor. Solidify home court. Lock it down. That is what the Knicks need to do, and hopefully we see that come to fruition.
I think defending home court is such – there's no home court advantage more than the Knicks. I might be biased here, but, dude, there's no atmosphere I've been to with the Knicks. You go to the Garden, even, Tyler, I'm talking about 2017 awful season Knicks. I'm at the Garden in February. We're the 12th seed, and it's like the playoffs are happening. I mean, the Knicks fans are just so freaking loyal, and now we actually have a good team. The fan base deserves this. I was at the playoff game last year against the Cavaliers when they won that game. Oh
Yes.
my gosh, what an atmosphere! And then
We
I was
won't talk about when you went to Miami.
I unfortunately saw the other side of things when I flew down to Miami to watch the Knicks get mollywopped from opening tip. That made me want to throw up. We got my boy James O'Boyle in the chat. One of my best friends from home. Appreciate you, James. Let's go.
Met James. He was at your Jets media day.
Yes, you did meet
James.
James.
That's why I recognize him, because when I met him, I'm like, I feel like I know you, but I don't think I met him before until then.
He's a loyal supporter of all my channels, always tuning in. Let's go. Love to see you streaming on this channel, Rich. I'm assuming that's what he meant instead of thigh. But yes, James, we're back on Knicks Media, and I'm happy to have Tyler joining me as the co-host on this show, and definitely excited to have you more often. Definitely want to make sure that Knicks Media is consistent and giving you guys all the coverage because Knicks basketball is freaking back. Let's go.
Richie, because I know we'll probably be wrapping things up sooner than later, let me ask you quick. As long as I'm not jumping the gun. If I am, then let me know. We'll push this segment. I want to know your prediction for tonight and who is your standout player on both teams. So give me who you like for the Celtics and who you like for the Knicks. Who's going to be that number one?
Number one in terms of like player of the game, like leading the Knicks in scoring and everything?
Yeah. Like who do you think is going to have the biggest game?
I mean, the easy answer is Jalen Brunson. I think that Jalen Brunson is going to like be the reason why that we're in the game all the way into the end. But I'm predicting an RJ Barrett opening 25 point type of game, efficient clutch. I think that we're going to see a clutch RJ Barrett tonight. I think Mitchell Robinson is going to dominate and get a double-double tonight as well. I think Grimes is going to get like a nice 12-pointer with a bunch of three-pointers. And I think Dante DiVincenzo is going to have a pretty good opener for these Knicks as well. I'm predicting a Knicks W, okay? Let me know in the chat right now what your score predictions are, because I'm predicting a Knicks 103-98 victory, a 5-point dub. Baby. I like these Knicks at home. Let's freaking go. RJ Barrett getting a nice 23 points. Jalen Brunson's going to lead the way with a 27-pointer. Julius Randle will also get like a nice 19, 20 points night. And we're going to crash the boards. It's going to be, and we're also going to play freaking ferocious defense. And I don't want to get ahead of myself, but we're going to freaking lock up Jason Tatum. We're not going to lock up Brown. Brown's going to light us up. He always lights up the Knicks. But Jason Tatum, he's a superstar, MVP candidate. We're going to lock him up, baby. Come on now. Come on, Grimes. Blitz him up. Double team him.
Did you pick a player for the Celtics that you think is going to blow out the most?
Yeah, probably Brown.
Okay, that's a good pick. I like that. I'm going to actually, just for the sake of the villain arc, I'm going with Kristaps.
Oh gosh,
going with the unicorn himself for the Celtics. Here's, in a perfect world, Kristaps has a strong game, but the Knicks upset him perfectly towards the end. Like that's what would be nice. But I'm picking the Knicks to win biasly 111-108 tonight. And for the next two, I think is going to step up the most. It's so hard not to pick Jalen in this situation, but keeping in mind coverage and recent success, I'm going with Julius Randle. I think Randle's going to have the 3-ball early and often tonight, and I'm picking him to really show out. I wouldn't shock me at all if we see at least a 30-point night with 10 rebounds for my boy. So I'm going Julius tonight for my guy for Celtics, Kristaps. So
sign me up for that, man. Julius Randle coming out. I mean, that game where we beat the Celtics that I keep referring to, Randle went off that game. I remember thinking to myself, oh my God, is Randle like, and that was the year after his breakout. So I'm like, dude, Randle's like him. Like, who is this guy?
Yeah.
But guys, let us know in the chat right now your score predictions and who you feel like is going to be the player of the game. I said RJ. Tyler said Julius Randle. There's a lot of different options. I mean, you can even say IQ gets going off the bench. You can even say Josh Hart gets his 8 points, 15 rebounds.
IQ had some really impressive moments against those same Celtics last year. Let's not forget that. He helped single-handedly win the game for the Knicks last year in Boston, too.
Yeah, that was without Brunson, I believe.
Yes.
In the season.
No Brunson, no problem, baby.
It was no Brunson, and IQ stepped up and was like, hey, this is what I look like when you give me a starting opportunity. And I think he had like a 40-point game or like something like that, 30 plus.
Crazy. So here's another thing too, Richie. You want to throw out, we pick any picks you're feeling tonight, for our sports bettors out there. we like an over-unders on anything. I know we did the over and under on the next regular season, but is there anything else you feeling? Because, any parlays popping in your head? Like there's a lot of interesting things.
Oh, yeah.
I haven't looked at the lines with all the sports books right now, but I can in a second because, I'm curious what
the line is
Jalen is
tonight.
at 25.5.
You want to give a shout out to Darren, who you know very
Oh
well.
my goodness,
He's tuning
that
in.
is the living legend himself. All right, guys, if you don't know who Darren Ferguson is, and if you're a Mets fan, so this is pretty niche because we're on a Knicks channel talking about the Mets briefly. But if you're a Mets fan, and if you don't know who Darren is, I'm sorry to hear that. Well, you do now. Darren is literally the best Mets fan you'll ever meet. Lives all the way in the UK, has been a diehard supporter of mine, has been a supporter of Richie over the years too. He loves his Knicks as well. He watches his Ranger hockey. He is just the embodiment of New York sports for a guy that's only been in New York, just at least once. So I love Darren to death. Phenomenal friend of mine, great supporter. I'm wishing him the absolute best. Appreciate you chiming in, Darren. And shout out to everyone else that's been watching the live show here on Knicks Media with my man Richie, who you, of course, can also check out for Jets fans. We're one of the best Jets accounts out there at Jets Media, both on Twitter and, of course, on YouTube. And, what else you got going on, Richie? Just briefly, get on a quick tangent. What else is going on?
I got too much going on to the point where it's like I don't even know how to bring it up. But first of all, Darren, thank you so much. I appreciate you tuning into the channel. But yeah, I also got the AFC's roundtable, which will be live tonight. I got the
got to be chiming in. I'm not a fan of the Jets, the Bills, the Pats, the Dolphins. I'm a Steelers fan, right? It doesn't make any sense.
We have so many NFL fans tuning in. We have a big announcement on the roundtable tonight. That's going to be an expansion announcement, which is really exciting. Which, by the way, I'm the first one to break it to you. No one's supposed to know this. I'm assuming no AFC's roundtable fans are in here. But yeah, we got a special announcement tonight for the first expansion.
He just leaked. Clip that shit right now.
No, we gotta wait. 7:40 p.m. tonight is when we'll announce it. I'll be having the Knicks game on while being live, of course.
Awesome. I will 100% be checking that out. But yeah, AFC East roundtable, cannot emphasize that enough. Even as someone who isn't a fan of any of those teams, so entertaining. I mean, the chemistry, the dynamic, the love-hate relationship you have with everyone, whether it's TD, Dan, whoever it is. I mean, just absolutely.
It's definitely a love-hate relationship.
It's the best. You guys are brothers, right? It doesn't matter how young or old you are. This is what makes sports fandom so good because it brings people together and it brings people apart. But there's no better feeling than when you're shit talking when your team has the upper hand over your rival. Whether 100%. It's Jets over Pats or vice versa.
Dealing with rivalries is just different, and I'm excited to get deeper into some basketball rivalries. I wish there was more Celtics fans in the chat I can chirp at. Right. But let's get into some of the lines tonight. So right now the Knicks are actually 4-point underdogs, so it's +4 right now for the Knicks.
Okay, I like that. Love that actually.
Alvaro says I like Mitchell Robinson 10 rebounds for +125. Definitely like that.
Like that too.
I mean, oh baby, I forgot about the betting part of basketball. I missed it. Not gonna lie.
Just when I thought I was out, they pull me back in.
Oh no, here we go again. Speaking of betting, I just have a crazy story I have to enlighten you guys about a betting experience I had this past weekend. Guys, please bet responsibly. But I had a $25.
Don't be Richie.
I had a $25 parlay to win $1,000 on the Dolphins and Eagles game. It was a 14-legger, and it included the Eagles money line.
14-leg? What were you smoking, bro?
Like maybe 12-leg. I don't know. But everything hit. Literally, everything hit. And I needed Jalen Hurts to get 25 rushing yards. And he got it. 25 rushing yards. Everything hit. I'm celebrating. I just won $1,000, texting my friends. And my friend Frank is like, Rich, you better hope Hurts doesn't kneel it out. I'm like, no, don't kneel it, Hurts. He got 25 rushing yards, and I needed 25. He had it on the dot, and then he started freaking kneeling it, which lost some yards, and I lost the bet. Isn't that crazy?
Need, what, 25 and a half at least?
I needed 25 flat. He had 25, and then he kneeled it 3 times straight, which lost him 4 yards.
Oh, my God.
So I was celebrating the win, and then my friend reminded me, dude, they might kneel it. I'm like, darn. But hey, Richie, it's all good. We're going to win that money tonight on these Knicks because we're about to go crazy, baby, because the Knicks are underdogs. Come on now.
Dude, just one thing I wanted to say on that quick is the worst feeling. The amount of times, even for the Knicks last season, the amount of times I'm celebrating when there's like 4 minutes left. And even if they won, it was because I missed by a point because I had, a spread or something. Like, I'm sorry. I don't wish that pain on anyone.
Guys.
It's anything 5+ leg is so unbelievably impressive to hit for anything, for even if it's only, 30, 40, 50, $100. Like that's not
And I
an easy thing
predicted
to do.
touchdowns too. I got Tyreek
Dude,
Hill
you
touchdown,
had
a
it.
Hurts
Oh,
touchdown.
I'm so sorry to hear that, bro.
I was celebrating. I'm like, oh my God, Jets bye week. This is the highest I've ever been, and oh, it's the best. But let's forget about that. Let's get back into some Knicks before we wrap things up. This is a wild card, but I think Quentin Grimes will have a 20-point game.
Whoa,
that's interesting. I like that. I like that a lot. I'm really curious to see any type of bets. I mean, I'm going to play some probably later today. I'm curious what these odds are.
So
my favorite.
I'll go ahead, Richie.
I want to see if I can find the odds for a Mitchell Robinson double-double because that's pretty much a lock every time.
Okay. Yeah, no, Mitch Robinson, he's usually.
Oh my God, plus 480 for a double-double for Mitchell Robinson tonight.
By the way, keep an eye. Josh Hart is at minus 128 on over 7.5 points. I think Josh is going to get at least 10 points tonight, so I would take the over.
Well, that's 100% happening. I just put $10 on Mitch to get a double-double. All right. Well,
I'd also take the over on Kristaps.
Yeah, probably.
18.5.
I got to figure this out, man. I got to figure all these stuff out.
We'll do it off air. It's fine.
But folks, I do appreciate each and every one of you guys tuning into the channel and tuning into Knicks Media tonight. Knicks basketball is back in 2 hours is tip-off. So folks, if you're not already, please hit that thumbs up button and subscribe to the channel if you're not already. Tyler, always a pleasure to have you on Knicks Media. Excited to have you on more often throughout the season. And guys, if you're not subscribed to Wardy NYM, if you are a Mets fan, even if you're just a baseball fan, he covers everything New York Mets, covers everything surrounding baseball. There's a lot of things going on with these Mets in the offseason. So make sure you guys go check him out. The link is down below in the description if you're not checked out to Wardy, who is the #1 Mets YouTuber on YouTube. So make sure you guys go check him out. And excited to have you on more often throughout the regular season, man.
Yeah, I'm excited too. We were just doing this a couple of years ago on my channel, talking Mets. It'll be a nice little shakeup this time around, being on here talking more Knicks with you, and really excited to get more involved with not only Knicks but NBA as a whole. So yeah, exciting stuff, man. Big season starts tonight. Let's go Knicks, baby.
Let's go Knicks. See you guys later, baby, on the recap show later tonight, and then we're live tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. See you guys there. Let's go Knicks. Go New York. Go New York. Go.
Peace out, folks.